What's going on, everybody? My name is Mark Izzo from The Burning Hammer and Vendetta Sports Media, and I'm going to go over what to expect for Friday Night SmackDown, which is less than 30 minutes away. But before I do, make sure to follow The Burning Hammer on all of their social media. On Twitter, they are at The Burnt Hammer. On Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube and Facebook, we are at The Burning Hammer. Make sure to listen to the Burning Hammer podcast, available wherever you listen to podcasts. And make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. And follow us on Twitch at the Burning Hammer podcast. We are on Twitch now. And make sure to follow me on Twitter at Markizzo_wave. That is the best way to get my initial and immediate reaction to anything and everything in the world of professional wrestling. Now, make sure to follow Vendetta Sports Media on all of their socials. On Twitter, they are at Vendetta VSM. On Instagram and TikTok, they are at Vendetta Sports Media. And make sure to check out vendettasportsmedia.com for all of your sports needs, plus TV, movies, and gaming. You name it, they're going to cover it. vendettasportsmedia.com for anything and everything. Now, let's get into Friday Night SmackDown. This is, if you ask me, the best show in professional wrestling. Blows AEW out of the water. It's really not even close, and I do think it is better than Raw. So let's get into the card. The announced card right now, we have Ricochet and Braun Strowman taking on the Viking Raiders. Now, I'm not going to talk too much about this match because I really don't care about this match. I think the Viking Raiders are super awesome. I think they had an awesome run in NXT. And then once they got called up, they went under the name change. I believe they were called the Viking Experience. And that's when things sort of took a turn for the worse. Luckily, they rebranded them back as the Viking Raiders. They're super awesome. If you haven't watched any of their NXT stuff, go back and watch them at NXT because they really know how to wrestle. I love Ricochet. I think he's extremely underrated and undervalued in WWE. I think that they should turn Ricochet heel. I think a Ricochet heel turn would be really something special. And I think it's sort of the thing that he needs. It feels he's very stagnant right now in his WWE career. Again, that's really not any fault of his own. They just really haven't done much with him at all. So um, let's push Ricochet. But you know who we shouldn't push? That's Braun Strowman. I am not the biggest fan of Braun Strowman in the slightest bit. So I really don't know why they paired them together. But it's just like, I don't know. It's just like every big guy has the same sort of characters that they're just a big guy. They don't have any real personality. And me and Dylan talked about it before. We just recorded a great episode of the podcast today, which you'll see on Monday. But when you're that big, you don't need to go around saying that you're that big. You don't need to go around and have your gimmick, have your character, have your persona be this big guy who's just going to beat you up, because that's very clear when you're that big. Like, you don't need to go walking around and telling everyone how big you are. So I've never been the biggest fan of Braun Strowman, but especially when he came back, like, I don't know, people were kind of hyped to see him. He got a huge pop when he first made his return to WWE, but I was never big on Braun Strowman. I really don't like this tag team at all. I think it's kind of weird that Braun took a dig at the high flyers like Ricochet. Ricochet did end up beating him in that, I think it was the World Cup, but and then they formed this tag team. I'm just not a big fan of it. I think we're going to be due for the Braun Strowman turn on Ricochet. I thought we would have gotten it by now, but clearly we haven't. And honestly, this just goes to show that WWE doesn't really know what to do with either of these wrestlers. So I think Viking Raiders need to definitely get the win, and let's start to build some momentum for other tag teams in the division, because WWE has a lot of really talented tag teams. But step one is going to be separating the tag titles. And then step two is starting to establish a lot of good tag teams, not named the New Day and not named the Usos, because they do have a lot of other tag teams that are super talented in WWE on both SmackDown and Raw. So The next match is a six-man tag match. It's Legado del Fantasma and the Judgment Day. I am super pumped about this match because I really like the Judgment Day and I really like Legado del Fantasma. They really haven't been wrestling as a trio that much. It's mostly been Santos Escobar who's been wrestling in singles competition, and then the two other guys have sort of just been getting squashed in the tag team division. So it's nice to have them wrestle as a trio. It's nice to see them finally come together as a faction, and I'm super pumped for this match because, like I said, I really do like the Judgment Day. I think that I'm happy that they turned on Edge and sort of changed their thing because I think this is the best Judgment Day that it's been, and I'm super excited to see where they're going to go from here because reportedly Judgment Day is set to be expanding. They were trying to look for another member after WrestleMania, so it's definitely going to be interesting um, to see sort of who they recruit and what they're going to do with that. But we got a good question from Doug here. Do you think the Street Profits will split? I can see Ford being an IC or US champion. I do think that they are going to split them. Um, Although I don't think they necessarily have to split them. I think that that's sort of like we've seen it with the Blackpool Combat Club and AEW where you don't need to necessarily break up a team in order to give someone a singles push. Now, I want a Montez Ford heel run, so I think that's what we're going to get. And I think that in order to do that, obviously you're going to have to break them up. I just don't think that Angelo Dawkins is also going to turn heel. So I do think that they are going to split them up. And I think that easily Montez Ford will have a mid card title. And I think he could have a world title run at some point over the next 2 or 3 years. So I definitely am looking forward to the big push for Montez Ford. But also, let's not forget about Angelo Dawkins. Angelo Dawkins is an underrated wrestler, maybe not as much lately because people are finally starting to understand sort of the level in which Dawkins is on. So I'm hoping if they do push Montez Ford, they don't just like push him to this dust and he's sort of just like left with nothing to do. Like we saw with Tucker when they split him and Otis a few years ago. So, yes, the split's coming, but also let's not just leave Angelo Dawkins in the dust if they do split in, if they do push Montez Ford. So let's move on to probably the most intriguing match, which is the Fatal Five-Way to determine who's going to face Gunther for the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania. It's Xavier Woods, LA Knight, Karrion Kross, Drew McIntyre, and Sheamus. Now, this IC title picture has definitely become an interesting one, especially after last week's episode of Friday Night SmackDown. You know, Drew McIntyre came out, challenged Gunther, and then Sheamus came out, and then a few other people came out. So at first, you thought maybe they're going to do the triple threat at Mania for the IC title between Sheamus and Drew. But then after that happened, you started to think maybe they're going to do a ladder match for the IC title, which I would definitely not be mad at all. Dylan talked about LA Knight facing Gunther for the IC title and doing Drew and Sheamus. Again, I would not be mad at that at all. But I don't know how likely that's going to happen now. I think we're going to be in store for a Drew and Sheamus, sort of another rivalry between them. And I think that one of them can win this and then they can just do another qualifying match in the future for sure, just to get Sheamus involved in there. Or maybe if Drew wins, it could be like Sheamus versus Drew next week to see if Sheamus can get in. But I think one of them is probably going to turn heel. I'm here for the Drew heel turn. I think that's something he's been needing for the past year or so. So I'm definitely intrigued to see what they're going to do with Drew and Sheamus, because I still do think that the triple threat is the most likely outcome for the Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania. However, I would say probably 50% chance it's the triple threat, 40% chance it's the ladder match, and then 10% chance of it not being either one of those two. So this match, again, it could be a lot of fun. There's a lot of good wrestlers in here. I'm happy Xavier Woods is starting to wrestle in some singles action. I know it's mostly just because Kofi's hurt, which is unfortunate. It's really unfortunate that Kofi's hurt, but I'm happy that Xavier is going to get some singles actions now, especially trying to go after a mid card title because I think that Xavier Woods, this may be a hot take, but he should have a world title run at some point. I don't know when or if that's ever going to come, but it's definitely something I think that he deserves because Kofi had it, Big E had it. So let's give it to Xavier Woods. And I think it would be a lot of fun in Xavier Woods' world title run at some point in the future. LA Knight is on top of the world right now. He's quickly becoming one of the biggest stars in WWE. I mean, you see it all over social media. The way he has control of the crowd, everyone's chanting his name. The way he carries himself, there's very few like LA Knight, and there's even fewer that rise up that quick after being called up to the main roster. And it's just like, for me, it's like crazy to think that that was there all along, but they decided to put him in Maximum Male Models again, which I wasn't the biggest fan of at first, but as time went on, I did sort of it did grow on me. I did enjoy Maximum Male Models, but it's really not even a competition. Like they should have just let LA Knight be LA Knight because there are very few like him, and there are very few stars that are shining as bright as him currently in WWE and in all of professional wrestling. So, and someone else, Karrion Kross. I don't dislike Karrion Kross, but it's just like after his feud with Drew, it really didn't do anything with him. Like he just feuded with Ray. And then he really just hasn't done much since. I thought like I was talking with Dylan about it, and we were saying like maybe Karrion Kross is going to be someone who challenges Roman next. This was back when Drew was challenging Roman for the, I believe it was for just the Universal title, or it might have been for both. But we were just thinking that like Karrion Kross is going to be the next guy to challenge Roman. That obviously never happened. A lot of people are down on Karrion Kross. I'm not as much. I just think he's gotten very poor booking since the feud with Drew was done. So it's I think he's very talented, and I think I do enjoy his gimmick. So it's really just on WWE to sort of figure out what they want to do with him, which hopefully will just give him a nice little push. And honestly, like he doesn't need to go after a title to get a good push. You know, he could just, as long as he has a good feud with someone, you don't always need to be chasing a title for a feud to be good or for a wrestler to be doing something that is that's meaningful. So let's just give Karrion Kross something to do besides being a weird feud with Rey Mysterio. So then obviously you have Sheamus and Drew. I think they're the two likely people to win this. But like I said, you could easily just have, I think Drew's gonna win. And then I think you could sort of have it where Sheamus almost wins, but then Drew sort of like gets the better of Sheamus, and then Sheamus just goes to poor Adam Pearce, and sort of demands a match for him to get into the match, because that triple threat match would be awesome. So I'm definitely here for that, but also I wouldn't be mad at the ladder match because it could be a really fun six-man ladder match for the IC title, and I think it would also do a lot for the title itself if you do have it at a ladder match at WrestleMania. So let's move on to the final thing that we're going to be discussing, the final segment that has been announced for SmackDown, and that is Jey Uso is coming home to Roman Reigns. He's coming home to the bloodline. Now, last week on SmackDown, we had the heartbreak, the moment we have all been waiting for. Jey Uso turning on Sami Zayn, and they did this really well. Jay had a great quote. He said, "You thought I was going to side with you? This is family shit." And it was very heartbreaking, to say the least. You know, I definitely got a pain in my stomach watching him just beat the crap out of Sami Zayn. Unfortunately, Kevin Owens did not come to the rescue. It was Cody Rhodes, but Cody Rhodes is going to be the person to reunite Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. There's that clip going around on social media of Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens talking to each other. I'm just going to assume that it's Cody trying to convince Kevin to sort of join Sammy to help take down the Usos. And that is the match we're going to get. Like, don't be fooled. We are getting Sammy and KO versus the Usos. They are just doing it really well, and this is how they should have been doing it, because you can't have Sammy and KO just immediately be cool and reunite after Sammy turns on the bloodline. So like, we knew this was going to be the long game, and like me and Dylan talked about it a few months ago, once we knew that that's sort of the direction that WWE was going to go. We said that you can't just have Sammy turn on them and then just be cool. Like, I was super excited to watch him and KO sort of build their friendship back up, also while Sammy's trying to take down the bloodline from the inside. So I have been really enjoying this, and I think that we're going to get the hug. Once we get the Sammy and KO hug, the place is going to erupt. And I think, I don't know when that's going to be. May not be till the go home show for either Raw or SmackDown, but we are going to get it. We are going to get that moment, and it's going to be awesome. Probably going to cry. So I'm super excited for it. I'm also interested to see what Roman Reigns is going to have to say. So I don't know. The bloodline sort of seems like they were falling apart, but then Jey Uso returned, and they sort of seem like they're starting to fill in the fractures that they had. So I don't know if Roman's just going to be happy that Jey is back, or if he's going to be more pissed off because he left them in the first place. So I'm definitely going to be interested to see sort of what they do with Roman Reigns and Jey Uso, and how this furthers the storyline with Sami Zayn, with Cody Rhodes, with Kevin Owens. I think that's a 6-man tag match that we could be getting at Backlash, or whatever is after Backlash, and maybe Money in the Bank. I can't remember, but that's definitely a 6-man match that we're going to get at a premium live event in the very near future. Hopefully after Cody Rhodes beats Roman Reigns for both titles. So that's going to wrap it up. That's everything that has been announced for Friday Night SmackDown. We're about 10 minutes away from the start of the show. So I'm just going to go and get ready for it. Thank you all to have watched it. Like I said at the start, make sure to follow The Burning Hammer on our social media. On Twitter, we are at The Burnt Hammer. On Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube, we are at The Burning Hammer. You can listen to The Burning Hammer podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts. There are new episodes every Monday: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Plus wherever else you listen to podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure to follow us on Twitch at The Burning Hammer Podcast. I'm going to be going live for the Dynamite and SmackDown pre-shows moving forward. And then we're also going to be posting a ton more content on the YouTube channel. So make sure to stay up to date for that. You can follow me on Twitter at @MarkIzzo_wave. Following me and following The Burning Hammer on our socials is the best way to get our initial and immediate reactions surrounding anything in the professional wrestling world. And you can follow Vendetta Sports Media on Twitter at VendettaVSM. You can follow them on Instagram and TikTok at Vendetta Sports Media. And make sure to visit VendettaSportsMedia.com for any and every sports needs. Whatever you need, they got it. Any sport, they're covering it, plus TV, movies, and gaming. Literally anything you need, they're going to be writing about it. So head over to VendettaSportsMedia.com to check out all of the great stuff over there on their site. So with that being said, that's going to wrap up the live stream. Like I said, every Wednesday and Friday night, I am here around 7:30 to talk about Dynamite and to talk about SmackDown. So make sure to follow us so you know when I will be live streaming. With that being said, it's been a blast. It's time to enjoy Friday Night SmackDown. Catch you next week.